Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. Some more transfer news for you today, and the big news of the day so far is that RB Leipzig are firming up their stance in more ways than one over Naby Keita in what looks like an attempt to deter Liverpool from making the transfer and trying to confirm that Naby Keita will in fact stay at the club. Now, the first thing we got out of this is the manager, Ralph Hasenhüttl, I believe is his name, who said that both Keita and Emil Forsberg, who's another player at Leipzig who's been the subject of a lot of apparent interest from clubs abroad, are both apparently happy at the club. He said they are comfortable, and he said that they are both looking forward to the season ahead. And when you add to this the fact that apparently the general message coming out of RB Leipzig is that they do not want to sell any of their best players, and they are now looking to establish themselves as a top club both in Germany and Europe. They want to follow up on their success from last season and keep it going, and obviously if they want to do that, then they do kind of need to hold on to the players that were most influential from them last season. And I can sort of see why they're doing this, because when you look at it, RB Leipzig last season basically did what Leicester did, where they came from nowhere, shot up to the upper zones of the league and just came out of nowhere really. And what they're probably wanting to avoid is doing what Leicester did after that, which is sold their most influential player in N'Golo Kante, and everything sort of went downhill from there. So it's very understandable why Leipzig apparently don't want to let go of Naby Keita and Emil Forsberg as well. But there are conflicting reports also coming out from Sky Sports, an English outlet this time. A lot of the reports about Naby Keita apparently staying at RB Leipzig are all in the German papers, and then the ones about him apparently being sold are all really coming from English papers. Sky Sports have said that, and I'll find it here, give us a sec. They're reporting that senior figures, whatever that means, are now actually coming to terms with the fact that Naby Keita is going to leave. They've pretty much accepted that he's going to go, and are now simply interested in getting the best deal possible. So, you know, there's all sorts of different reports coming from all over the place. So as it stands, it is quite difficult to tell what's really going on. But if you ask me, the important thing to bear in mind here is that when it comes to transfers, a lot of games get played by clubs. With any transfer really, and especially with one like this that is commanding such high fees as 60 million, 70 million pounds. So it's understandable that the clubs are going to try and use the press as a way to exert influence and push things around and try and make things go their way. Because you have to remember that it wasn't that long ago that reports were coming out that Naby Keita was desperate to join Liverpool. There were reports that he might even hand in a transfer request. So RB Leipzig may simply be using this to try and put the ball back in Liverpool's court, because Liverpool were probably thinking of using that as a make weight in the deal, trying to use the fact that Naby Keita wanted to leave the club to try and push the deal through. So if RB Leipzig start putting out those stories that Keita is happy to stay, then it makes things a little bit more difficult for Liverpool. And if they are willing to sell Naby Keita, then it means that Liverpool will have to spend big, even bigger than they would have done earlier when Keita did want to leave, if they want to get hold of the player. So as it stands, I'm not losing any faith on the deal. I'm still not entirely sure that he will come to Liverpool. I think what will happen is we'll probably have a much better idea of whether or not Liverpool will get their man after we make this second bid, because we've already bid about £57 million for him, and apparently we're lining up a second bid of around £65 million, which is around 75 million euros, and that is only 5 million off of what Naby Keita's valuation apparently was when it was reported that RB Leipzig had put a £70 million price tag on him earlier on in the summer. And I think when this bid is made, whether that's in the next couple of days or within the next week, again, there have been conflicting reports. Nobody really knows what's going on in regards to that. I think we'll have a much better idea, because if Leipzig get that second bid of about £65 million and they're still just saying that they're not interested, they don't want to sell the player, they don't want to receive any more bids, then I think it will be fairly clear that they genuinely are not selling, and Liverpool should probably start looking further afield in terms of transfer targets in centre midfield. But if they see that bid and decide that they've seen that Liverpool are serious about meeting their valuation, they've seen that they're going to get a lot more money for the player than maybe they were expecting to get from Liverpool, and then negotiations could start moving forward, Leipzig could start listening to Liverpool a bit more, then we will know whether or not we're going to get the player. So for now, it is hard to tell, but hopefully by the end of this week, we will know a bit more. So patience, I think, is the most important thing to bear in mind during this transfer saga. In other news, talks with Hull City over the signing of Andrew Robertson are apparently still ongoing. It was reported a few days ago that apparently the two clubs had actually met on an £8 million fee, which, if you ask me, for a fullback in a window where Kyle Walker is being sold for £54 million, is a pretty exceptional bargain for a left back for Liverpool. But apparently we had agreed on the fee, but it's a bit odd really that talks are apparently still ongoing, because you think if the fee had been agreed on, then anything else after that would be a formality and things would start to move towards the player actually signing for Liverpool. So perhaps Hull may be negotiating some sort of buyback clause in there, which is understandable when you sell young and promising talents, to make sure that they don't lose out too much if he does go on to bigger and better things at Liverpool. They are apparently also interested in taking Ryan Kent on loan as well, so that could be forming part of the negotiations as well. Then maybe trying to tie that up as well while they've got the chance and while they're still selling Robertson to Liverpool. So that is one that will hopefully get over the line fairly soon, maybe even by the end of the week. Bit too late for him to join up with the Hong Kong tour, but hopefully he'll be here in time for when Liverpool play Hertha Berlin a week after that. It would be nice to start seeing some more faces in pre-season, because as nice as it is to see Liverpool back and playing on the pitch, we want to see some more players playing for Liverpool. We want to see someone other than just Mohamed Salah, as great as it is to see him in a Liverpool shirt playing for the club. But with regards to the Ryan Kent thing, it makes a lot of sense to me, because if you ask me, I can't really see him having much of a future at the club next season in terms of first team football. I just can't really see him getting a look in ahead of some of the other options that Liverpool have. So I think really the options that are there for him are to stay at the academy, where he's already been playing for a few years now, so that probably won't make too much of a difference. He can be sold or he can go out on loan. So I think going out on loan is probably a pretty good move for him and will hopefully benefit Liverpool. If he does go out on loan and he does play well and he does have a future at the club, then that's good. And if he does go out on loan and it doesn't look like he's got much of a future at Liverpool, then we've also got a club that might be interested in buying him and taking him off our hands. So for now, I think that's probably the best move for the player. Elsewhere, another academy player who may be going out on loan is Sheyi. Apparently Newcastle are interested in taking him. There were reports earlier on that they were actually interested in making a bid of £10 million to take him on a permanent deal, and Liverpool were open to maybe going for that and putting in a buyback clause as well, which I personally wouldn't have minded, because we've done that with previous players like Jordan Ibe and Brad Smith, where we've sold them to lower down Premier League clubs, put in buyback clauses, and that hasn't really come back to haunt us yet, so I wouldn't be too opposed to that. But the reports now are that Rafael Benitez is interested in taking him on a one-year loan. And it's the same thing really with Ryan Kent. I think he's got a bit more chance of first team football if he stays at Liverpool this season, because he's played quite a few games for the first team in the past, especially the season before last. Last season he was hit by an injury which obviously impacted his development and his ability to play first team football. But I think there's a bit of a chance of him playing, but I think it's probably best that he goes out on loan to Newcastle for now at least. Again, it depends sort of on pre-season. Maybe he makes a good impression and, you know, nails himself down as a possible player on the wing for Liverpool. Or maybe he doesn't shine too much and ends up going out on loan. So I think Klopp's probably going to leave that one for a few weeks or two, see if he can get a bit more of a look at Sheyi before he decides whether to send him out. But again, I wouldn't be too opposed to him going out on loan. I think it probably could be a good move for the player's development. And finally, Mamadou Sakho is back at Melwood and seems to be in quite a good mood. He posted on Twitter today a picture of him with Sadio Mane. They were both smiling, seemed to be enjoying themselves, and the general message from the caption he put with the image as well seemed to be quite a positive one. So I think that's one to keep tabs on for now, because Klopp seems to have been slightly less harsh on Mamadou Sakho in his last few comments on him in press conferences and interviews and everything. He seems to be maybe leaving the door slightly more open for Mamadou Sakho to come back in as a Liverpool player. Whether or not this is to try and just help put him in the shop window to make sure that clubs don't just think that Liverpool are definitely going to sell Sakho and they can probably get a fairly good deal for him, and to just try and bump his price tag up a little bit, we don't really know. It'll be interesting to see how that one develops, but for now at least I think it could be slightly linked to the Van Dijk saga, because obviously if we don't get Van Dijk in and we can't find a suitable alternative before the transfer window ends, then Liverpool may have to call on Mamadou Sakho next season as one of their first choice centre-backs. So it'll be interesting to see how that one develops and whether or not Mamadou Sakho does, after all, have a future at Liverpool. So that's all for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, why not give it a like? If you're new around here, why not hit subscribe as well and check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel in the past few weeks. Apart from that, don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter as well, and I'll see you in a bit. Bye for now.